All right, teammates, we are back once again. If this is your first time listening to the Move Swiftly podcast, welcome to the number one show on innovative teamwork. Great to have you. To my regular listeners, we are here for a groundbreaking first time ever do I have a couple who is doing a podcast together. I will just hashtag this one couples goals. Couples goals. You know, one of my favorite lines is actually a book by Carol Dweck, Mindset, when she was talking about couples and they said that they worked happily ever after. They didn't live happily ever after, they worked happily ever after. And you guys have a company that is really, truly, truly resonates with the work I do in regards to fitness, athletics, and education, you know, kind of lumped everything into one. It's Diet Rethinking, correct?
Rethink dieting.
Yeah,
Rethink.
rethink dieting. Excuse me. So it's
There you go.
rethink dieting. And again, I'm gonna bring you guys in a second, but I just kind of give you my backstory in regards to fitness. I've worked at several fitness facilities as a seller, as a sales associate, and there's so much nonsense out there. There's so much of that corporate kind of inauthentic, oh, just eat this, eat that, and everything's going to be fine. I actually remember doing a workshop for Weight Watchers and these organizations, and so much stuff out there. But you guys obviously have been able to build something that's very significant, special, and all that kind of stuff. So before I make the intro too long, welcome to the show. Great to have you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having us, Aswan. Great to be here.
Well, let's just get things started back then because I've seen pictures of the way you two looked previously. I've seen the before and after pictures, and I personally would like it if you guys can just dive deeper into those years, like that background, and you guys were very heavy and well, heavy might not be the best term to use, but
Morbidly obese is really the accurate term.
morbidly obese, right? And we'll make sure we keep it scientifically correct here because
Or
I've met I
just plain fat too works. I was just plain fat.
whatever it
So
is, whatever
there
it
is no,
works.
it's all politically incorrect. So
Yeah.
anyway,
But so what drove you guys to do it though? Because my thing is, again, I grew up a football player, saw a lot of offensive linemen and D linemen, and there was never any like, well, some of them, there's never any push to, you know, get in shape and get, you know, their weight right and all that kind of stuff. So where was these moments in which you guys decided that you were going to start to build something this significant?
well, it really came from 30. I had the bigger struggle. I mean, my struggle was a lot longer. I mean, I reached a pretty significant weight. I'll talk about in a minute. Angie had the normal up and down with babies, and her last baby was 15 years old when she reached her still carrying the pregnancy weight. What really happened, I mean, after 35 years of, you name the diet, I've been on it. I mean, whether it was a zone diet, Weight Watchers, this diet, that diet. I mean, it was 70 plus diets and exercise plans. And, it really dawned on me one morning. I stepped on the scale in 2017. And when I looked down and I saw a three at the beginning of the scale, and it was, I'm 5'11. I'm not I'm just that kind of an average height guy. And 304 pounds, man, it just did something to me. When I looked down and saw that, it was like I was 55 years old. Angie and I just celebrated our 31st wedding anniversary, March 2nd, 1st, 2017. This was March 2nd, the very next morning. It was about 6:45 a.m. She was kind of rolling out of bed. It was dark outside, and I saw that, and it was like, oh my God. I was in the life insurance business in those years. I'd been in it for a long time, working with what's called the senior market. That's people that are typically over 65.
Mhm.
And standing there, it was just kind of like God opened my mind up. It was like, you have never met a man 65 years. Now I was 55, so I wasn't there yet, but it's still not. But at 55, I realized that I'd never met a man that was 65 that was more than 100 pounds overweight. And now, and I've been in thousands of homes. I couldn't think of one. Now they're out there. I call them unicorns, because the reason that you don't meet many men at that size at that age is because they're dead. I mean, they don't make it. I mean, you look at all these stories, all these famous people, and all, they just don't live long. If they live long, it's a very rare thing. And I had the normal coping mechanism as, oh well, I'm just, I'm getting older. I'm just, it's harder to lose weight. The million excuses, but really the reality is I always knew what to do. It
Mm.
was not complicated. Okay. But then When I saw that number on the scale, I realized that Angie was likely going to be calling me her first husband because I'd probably be dead.
Oh my
Okay.
God.
Not because she was shopping. She may be shopping around now, but I don't think so. We work together a lot. It'd be hard for her to. I realized, I mean, people look their whole life for a mate, companion, spouse, whatever you want to call it, and we had 4 children together.
Wow.
We'd had a great life, and I was going to get taken out because I couldn't put down my stinking fork.
Wow.
And that's really it. I mean, and we can make this complicated with macros and calories and all the different things, but it's all BS. Okay, I'm just saying,
Yeah.
it is. At the end of the day, it was a decision, and just standing there looking at that scale. I mean, I get God bumps when I think about this to this day. I mean, because this is real. I mean, this is just what happened. When I'm standing there, I'm looking out at the scale. I'm saying, I'm never going to see that number again. I better take a picture of it. I mean, I really did. I took, if you look at our website, you'll see that picture of 304, and
Yes,
that was that
actually,
morning.
I was just looking at it. Yeah.
That was that morning. That's no joke. I think it was 6:46 a.m. I looked at it the other day just out of curiosity the time of morning. But what happened though over the next few weeks was really very different than any other time that I'd quote tried to lose weight, some weight or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And I was actually Angie and I had signed up for a, a group coaching program that Nick Unsworth ran.
Now, was this were you, just to give some context, was this when you were in South Florida, or where was the?
No, we live in Amelia Island, North Florida, just north of Jacksonville. It's right here where I was literally sitting in this office when
Our best friend lives in Palm Beach.
Yeah, so we go down
now. So that's our relationship to your area.
We go down there to enjoy her homes when we are not around. She has mobile homes down there.
I've been to Jacksonville. Jacksonville isn't bad though. I've been there.
But what happened from the journey, I immediately started cutting back the weights. When you're 304 pounds, you lose some weight pretty quick. Water weight comes off, as you know, being in the fitness world. I mean, it comes off pretty fast when you're 300-pound guy. But it was interesting. I was in that coaching program, Angie and I were, and had this chance I had a private call with this business coach.
Mm-hmm.
And he was in San Diego. We didn't do Zoom back then. It was just telephone call because it was 7 years ago. Zoom was not as
like
prevalent.
A century ago now. Yeah.
I mean, it does to us too. And he said, and it was really to build my insurance business to get it going even better. And he said, "What do you think's holding you back in your business?" I said, "That's simple. It's my weight."
Mm-hmm.
He said, "Your weight?" And he was kind of said, "That's an odd answer." I said, "What? How much do you weigh?" And I said, "Well, I weigh about 299, 298 this morning, but I was 304 the other day, and it freaked me out." And he said, "Wow, how tall are you?" He was thinking I was going to say 6'8" or something. I said, "I'm 5'11", and he said, "Man, that is big." He said, "Do you know what to do?" And I said, "Sure, I know what to do. I could write a friggin' book on diets, even though I've never been successful on one long term."
Mm-hmm.
And he said, "Why don't you do it?" And I said, "I just can't seem to stick to it." I said, "I just can't. I go a little while and a little while, and then I fall off the wagon. I go back to the single serving sizes of Dorito that say family on them, and those single serving sizes of ice cream that say half gallon on them, and I go back to the way I was doing." He said, and I'm a verbal processor as one, as my wife, who's a great listener, one of the greatest listeners that's ever lived, and married to me for 38 years now. But started processing what he was asking me. He was asking some great questions. He said, "Well, what would you do?" And I said, "I know exactly what to do." And he said, "Well, why don't you do it?" And I told you that. And he said, "What could you do, to get yourself to stick to it?" And I said, "If I was on like that Biggest Loser show with all those crazy athlete trainers and stuff," I said, "I would lose the weight just because everybody in my life would be watching me."
Mm-hmm.
And he says, "Well, it's unlikely that they're going to cast you for Biggest Loser. That's a pretty long line of people that want to get on that show." He said, what could you do on your own?" And I just verbal processing like I do. I was sitting right here, literally. I was probably maybe a foot to the right and sitting in the same room. And I said, and I started processing. I said, I bet if I posted my scale on Facebook every day, I'd drop the weight like that. And he said, "Do it." And I immediately, when I said, I'm like, "Oh my God, I should have said that." I went and he said, "Alan, do it now." And I said, "Dude, can I wait till I'm 289? Like, I was 289, still morbidly obese for a 5'11" guy." And I said, "No." He said, this man's name is Joachim. He's a pastor of a church in San Diego.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, "No, you're never going to have this chance again. This is a turning point."
Right.
He said, and I mean, prophecy, you're talking about a guy that being on prophetic words. And so I did it. And I just said, I'm gonna weigh 129 pounds less than I did on March 2nd by March the 20, what was it? March 20, excuse me, November 25th of this year, 260 days from that day. And I'm gonna weigh that. And I'm scared to death, but I'm gonna post the scale every day, and you get to watch my journey. And while we don't recommend people do this nowadays because Facebook is a very different and very angry world out there. So
especially with the political season we're in, where we're
oh yeah, we don't ask our clients, certainly don't do this, but it was interesting. Something happened to me and it wasn't about the diet. Did I have to change what I eat? Of course I did. But I already knew what to eat. I mean, did I have to exercise? Sure, I do some exercise, but I wasn't like doing crazy exercise or anything. But it just got wind. It was like you step off the ledge, the wings suddenly start to grow, and I mean, I didn't hit my target date the day I said I would. Unfortunately, I hit it 5 days early, and it was and so. But what it really was, it was crazy. As it seemed, Angie and I didn't talk about it, and I let her speak to that part. But I did it without. I just jumped is what happened. I made the decision where there was no way out. There was no way I could justify it. There's no birthday, no anniversary, no kid. We have 4 kids, have 4 kids who were grown, but no special event that I could justify. I had to do the work, and then I let Angie tell her side when that happened.
Right. Well, I want to make sure we make some points we put, because there was a lot you said, and I don't want it to get brushed over for the listeners. Is understanding when you are in business and how much it actually relates to doing and developing in your business, because a lot of people go under the assumption that, working out in business are 2 separate things, or having a career. No, it leads to the confidence, the way you show up for your clients, the way you are motivated, goal oriented. All of those things are going to start to bleed over into who you become as a professional, who you become as a father, who you become as a husband. All of these things are important. So when because I run every single morning, I record myself running every single. I mean, people look at me like I might be intense. I'm not saying that because I'm trying to impress you, but impress upon you. There's definitely a strong correlation between having a regular fitness program, staying on your goals, not Aswan's goals, not Angie's goals, not Alan's goals, your specific, what can you do today, and allow that to be the thing that pushes you forward. So, all that being said, Angie, I do want to give you the mic. I know you've been waiting, so please give us,
She's used to listening when she
people
says
that can talk forever. So speak
That's a gift I have. Listening is a gift, but I do talk too. Sometimes that morning when he walked out of the office, and
I didn't get to walk out of the office.
Yeah,
I remember standing there.
And we weren't on Facebook a lot, but he, I don't know why. I just looked, and there he had posted this terrible.
Blindsided it? You were blindsided by it?
Oh, yeah, she was blindsided. Totally.
Blindsided, yes. And we always do discuss big life decisions. I mean, and that would
but hang on. There is no wife that's ever been angry for a husband getting fit.
Right, exactly. So you told me that,
I'd say
by the end of the year that I would just be thrilled, and I was. I mean, obviously for a lot of reasons, but seeing that, a lot of emotions did go through my body, my brain, my whatever, because I knew that the parents of our children, friends, they would see it. People from our old church. We had moved now from South Carolina to Florida, but we were connected by Facebook then, and I was so fearful of that.
Shame.
It did, because I knew, and it really hit, because I knew that I was not quite, like Alan said, I did not quite have the weight to lose. I still lost 63 pounds. I'm 5'7",
right,
and I had not weighed in.
Now hang on,
years.
She did that in 190 days after 15 years of carrying the baby weight. I was carrying the baby weight.
Yeah,
the baby was 15. The baby was 15, and then she did it because she made the decision.
Now, what ages are the kids though? All 4 of them?
our kids at the time, our youngest was 15,
Mhm.
and
Then
now she's 22,
but
and
no, but
so
we
and
had
our
15.
our,
There
our
was
kids.
15, 19, 23, and I guess 27. They're 4 years apart.
Yeah, that's
we,
that's
we have,
good. That's a fair. Yeah, that's a time where again, if you're getting pregnant with them, then you have to deal with. And I'm asking this because when I was a trainer at a company named Nine Round, the boxing gym, and there was we had a lot of ladies and a lot of mothers who were really struggling to get back to their weight before they had their kids. And one of the things I would constantly do is reinforce the fact that, having kids is not an excuse not to work out. They're actually your reason. So, I'd love for you to actually go in a little bit in terms of, because when you see him post this and you go to this boot camp and all that, you can easily feel left out because most of the people that regularly go, they're already in shape. I know the game, I know the business where, as a trainer, you're already kind of focusing on the ones that are coachable, that can do all the workouts, that can do all the jumping jacks and all that kind of stuff. How were you, like, it's kind of, I guess both of you guys can answer this, is when it comes to the way you were able to support each other during those times where you're seeing people who are in shape and it's like we got to look at each other and say, honey, is this really what we want to do?
No,
Those moments I've
that's
heard.
such a great question, as one, because we did, and this is where, and believe me, we cycle 25 to 35 miles a morning every day
Now,
now, but you have to realize where we were,
Yeah.
okay? And this is one thing I want to say to people that may be listening that are afraid to go in the gym. They're afraid to do the things. Is we started where we were. I mean, and so I got on a bike and I started riding, like 2 miles, barely. I mean, I was this big guy on a bicycle that barely held me,
Hmm.
and that my son gave me that went I went like 2 miles, but it wasn't the exercise that got the weight off me. The motion helped. I mean, it was the greatest exercise of all time. It's the exercise of putting down the fork.
Yeah.
And so, because there is, and
Strong one
so
right there. Listeners, I hope you caught that one. That's a strong one. That's I haven't heard
I mean,
another
listen.
first on the Move Simply podcast. The exercise is putting down the fork. All right. Oh man.
Yeah,
That's a
because
good one.
because here's the thing: there's no exercise known to man that is as fast as the fork, and a spoon is much faster.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, as we walk through it, and this is the thing I would say to your audience who are listeners. I mean, if people are in great shape, that's awesome. But it's like you said, it impacts everything.
Mhm.
But first thing that we did, and I came up with this years later, but if the creator of the universe walked into your house and asked you, and with the version of yourself you were created to be at your current age, what does that version weigh? Okay, that's the first decision you have to make.
Right.
Because we get caught up in this belief that you can't be in shape at age 62, like I am now. I'm about to be 63. I'm in best shape I've been since I was 18 years old. Okay. Angie looks amazing. I took a picture of her yesterday, taking a picture of rainbow shit. Haven't seen it yet. I'm gonna post it because
Uh,
she looks amazing. She
we
looks
go
like she
again,
looks like
baby.
a friggin' model at age 62. I mean, she's 62. Yes, I said your age. And
Uh,
so, because you'll be proud of it. But the point I
yeah.
make to it is the fact that I knew what to weigh. I knew that my weight, what I should weigh. It was not about selling. But then the second piece of the equation is, if your life didn't depend on you getting your weight, getting healthy, okay? Let's just suppose that, and I do this weekly with clients. It's hilarious. It really is, because they get clear on their weight they want to be. The second question is, if all of your people you love, even your favorite pet,
Hmm.
because most people have dogs, love their dogs better than love their people.
Right.
But I said, if they were taken hostage and they were being held by these awful kidnappers that were going to kill them if you didn't release, and I say release rather than lose, because we look for stuff we're going to lose,
Mhm.
and so we don't want to look for these pounds. If you're going to release 1 pound of that weight, of that excess weight per week, until you reach your ideal weight, your God-given weight, I said, but here's the catch: you cannot not ask an expert like Aswin, a fitness trainer. You
Mhm.
can't ask a dietitian, a nutritionist, a doctor. You can't even Google what to eat. Could you save your family's life in eating in such a way and exercising in such a way that you would absolutely thrill your doctors and your medical professionals without even looking?
Mhm.
As when every single man and every single woman we've asked that question of, and it's in the thousands,
Mhm.
has said yes. In fact, the most interesting answer we ever got was a client of ours who dropped almost 200 pounds. He had never been on a diet at over 400 pounds, was in a wheelchair if he had to walk more than 10 feet. You watch his video, Sean Wiggins, he's an amazing man. But Sean had never been on a diet. And one of the things we tell our clients, we're never going to tell you what to eat because that's an excuse for people. Do they have to change it? Of course, but they need to be the experts so that they need to become the expert on themselves, because everybody's different. When you become the expert on you and you own it, just like you own this podcast, you're awesome at this podcast. You know what you're doing. You owned it. Nobody's doing it for you. You have to have that knowledge. But it was so funny. I asked Sean that question, and I said, "What if your wife and two daughters were taken hostage?" Because he loves them dearly. I mean, he's a great father. I said, "What would you do to save their life?" And it was so funny. To hear him say it, I can hear his voice in my mind. This is about 5 years ago. This happened, and he thought for a minute. He said, "I know what I'll do. I'm going to eat less." I mean, I swear to you, this is what he said. Now and I said, that's where you start. We want to make it so complicated. We want to, should we do keto, or should we do carnivore? Should we caloric restriction? I mean, it's all BS. It all works at some level. If you're 50 or 100 pounds overweight or 200 pounds overweight, get started in figuring it out. And do the friggin' work. And I'm not talking about the extra push-ups, although that's valuable. I'm not talking about the extra running, that's valuable. I'm not talking about, this or that diet. When I'm talking about, do the work of learning what works for you. Because it's just like one of our clients who's 73 now. Now and I'm not saying this to impress people, but to impress upon them if they're hopeless. Because I can hear people saying, "Yeah, but I've got this condition. Yeah, but I've got that condition. Yeah, but," because I had all those yeah buts myself. I've been on every diet. They didn't work for me. I always figured out a reason they didn't work. But it was so funny. Rick Sponholz, he's 73 now. When I met him, he was 70. And he was 388 pounds at his peak. Okay. Right. He was what I call a unicorn, because he should not have been alive. But I believe God had some big plans for him, because he was still alive, because he was a heart attack survivor, every obesity related illness. Oh, by the way, he walks with a walker because he has a whole fused vertebrae. His back is kind of this shape. So he cannot exercise really hardly, other than just moving with his walker. And I said to him, "I'm positive we can get the weight off if you'll do the work." He said, "You're a lunatic." I mean, he literally called me a lunatic. Right. And I said, and to let's see, now it's harder for him than it would be for you, or it was for me or Angie. But he just clocked in at over 170 pounds down over the weekend.
Oh my goodness.
And now here's the catch. He's alive. He's alive. And I never told him one thing to eat, because I said, you make this the business of learning what the business of you is about.
Right.
And I said, it's going to take you longer. I said, so what? I said, it took you 52 years. In fact, we joke about it. We figured out he just reached Richard Nixon era weight. Is what he had. So the point.
I was born though. I
want people to get, if they're listening to this and feel hopeless, it's not freaking hopeless. Is it easy? Heck no. It's not easy. And I mean, Angie can speak to some of that too.
Well, no, I mean, but what are the options?
What's your options?
Either you take action today to try to have a better life and a better situation, with your family, to be there for your family, to maybe, if you're not in a relationship, like Alan said earlier, to find that person that you long for. And if you're young, I mean, we've had younger clients that.
A lady right now, 27.
But we've had in the past that were wanting to lose weight in order to have children before they had children, for their health. We've seen it all, and so, but the choices are to stay where you are and just be sad and miserable. And some people we speak to, I mean, they just loathe themselves because they let themselves get in this position, and they know they could have done something about it. And so today's the day is the way we look at it with when we speak to someone. It's like either if you're tired of the way life has been, change, because that's what we did. And I know for me, losing 63 pounds just weeks into the journey, I noticed changes. For instance, every day, because Alan was in the life insurance business, we had a post office box, and most every day I would go to the post office, and typically if someone's 5 feet ahead of you or two or whatever, they'll hold the door for the person behind them. I mean, it's a small community and a lot of people come in and out. Every time I felt like the door was just shut, shut, shut. After just a short time, all of a sudden the door, people, the ladies, the men, whatever, I might have had to walk for a minute to get to the door,
Mhm.
and they would hold it. It was like, what
Wow.
happened? It was just like I took action
Huh.
for myself. No one else could do it for me, but it's like I'm not invisible. It
Yeah.
was like I was invisible. And
We hear that a lot from
we do
clients.
we
Yeah.
do hear that a lot. And but that's how I felt. I felt just invisible. These people must not see me. And here I'm 188 pounds when I started. So it was at 5'7", so it's not like they didn't see me. They just a lot of people, there's a lot of bad thoughts, if you will, when oftentimes people judge obese people.
They
Right.
do all do it. They always
Be-
judge them. I
because
mean, they do
and
judge
it's not that the
them.
people
We lived in
judging
that.
are bad people.
Yeah.
It's just a natural thing. And if you can actually look up in some studies, obese and people are thought to be lazy. They're
Mhm.
thought to be dirty, believe it or not. They're thought, to be more or less hoarders. There's so many negative words, and we certainly weren't any of those things, but people think you are, and
Yeah.
and they don't listen. If you're in business
Yeah.
and you're walking into the boardroom and you're 100 pounds overweight, I mean, do you really think that everything you say is going to be received in the way you want it to be? Or certainly if you're job hunting,
Mhm.
if you're seeking a job.
Well,
So
you're
a lot, a
walking.
lot to
I'm glad
consider.
the thing is, so let me ask you guys this because I'm glad you brought up the business element to it because you guys were able to turn it into something where you created a business. And I've personally worked at an LA Fitness where I'm not sure if you guys know how this works, but there's the sales side and then there's the personal training development side. And they brought in this lady who actually was high up with LA Fitness, like Fitness International, met the Welches, the whole nine. And she was the personal training director and she was an overweight lady. And I kind of insinuated the fact, I don't know how many training packages you're gonna sell based on the way you look. I said it really delicately too. I wasn't like an asshole about it, but she looked at me and she goes, no, no, that's not true.
Yeah.
Because I could attract these people, sign them up for a membership, and we'll be good. As long as we get them, as long as we get them in, our numbers go up, then we're all good. So she and herself found an excuse not to get in shape, but she's going to say the people that look like me going to feel comfortable to sign up. I take their money, and once they sign up, hey, that's on them. How do you guys come? And unfortunately, she's not the only one who thinks like that. How were you guys able to build the business when you got to combat that mentality that's rampant?
The really is one the real question for people. I mean, because we don't tell people what to weigh. I mean, we
Hmm.
don't do that. That's not our job. That's not your job. That's not LA Fitness. Not anybody's job.
Right.
What we ask that people is, what do you really want?
Hmm.
What do you want? I mean, and so that it's got to start there. And if they say, no, I want to get this weight off, I'm going to say, okay, is this today that you've drawn a line in the sand? And we find out first because there's no place on our website to push a button to buy our product, by the way. And we do that intentionally, not because we wouldn't love to sell 92,555 people a day, which is the number of people that will be obese tomorrow, that more than there are today worldwide. Just so you know, that's a crazy number, but
It is. It is.
92,555. And
Mhm.
so we love that. But at the end of the day, most people aren't ready for us. I mean, they're not, because they're just not ready for us. So first thing we've got to find out is, how bad is obesity? How bad is it? I'm not talking about your health, because everybody with a brain that lives in a first world country knows that long-term longevity is going to be massively impacted by obesity. Okay, and if you're not obese, you don't believe you're obese, look at the charts. And I mean, I'm not saying they're always right. BMI charts are not always right, but you can't argue with reality. Byron Katie says, if you argue reality, you lose, but only 100% of the time. And
Yeah.
so quit arguing with reality. First thing, how bad is it affecting your relationships? How bad is it? It's the number 3 cause of divorce in the United States is weight gain. If you think your spouse loves you because you're obese, I guarantee you that, I hope they do. I pray they do. Like mine loved me through my obesity. She loved me through my obesity.
Mm.
Okay. She loved me regardless of it. But but it's also the reason people leave too. They do, because it affects more a lot of things. Number three cause of divorce. If you think that you've missed job opportunities, because you can be discriminated against in 49 states out of 50. Michigan's the only state that you cannot be discriminated against because of weight legally. You can legally be discriminated against. I know it's not politically correct, it's not socially correct, it's rude sounding, but people know this. The people we get on the phone with and our team gets on the phone with, they hear all the shame and all the going inward, and then we start this vicious circle of insanity called the dieter's circle of insanity, where they started out, stop it, started out, stop it, and they eat a little more to feel better, and then they feel worse the next day because they're fatter, and they are way more, and then it's this circle, round and round they go. I was on it for 35 years, but at the end of the day, how committed are they to solve the problem? Because the problem, and when people come to us, I've got to be 100% confident we can get the weight off of them. Okay. Now I can't do it for them. I'm not going to walk around, knocking a Twinkie out of their hand. I mean, that's not what we do. And then it only then are we willing to kind of take that next step with people. So, because at the end of the day, it's cost people so much in their business. I mean, they sit there and you're wearing what this was me. I mean, and I'm not saying this to condemn anybody. I mean, listen, we're Jesus followers. I know this is, but God loves you regardless of what you weigh. Okay, He does, but He also created you for better. He created you for better. And so what we get excited about is, I love it when our clients come and tell us, oh, I just got off 18 different drugs or 5 different drugs or whatever. I'm off my diabetes medicine. My retinopathy's improved. I'm out of my wheelchair. This has happened because now I've lost enough weight. I'm not using a wheelchair anymore, and all these things. We love all that. But what we love more than anything is when people start to experience the abundant life that they got waiting on them. Things like these, the guy I mentioned earlier, Sean, he was so funny. I have a deal with Angie and I have this deal with all our clients to let us know the things that have nothing to do with the scale and your health that are going to happen to you as the weight comes off. And it was so funny. He calls me from New York about 2 years ago, and he says, Alan, I'm in New York with my CEO, and he was just talking about you and Angie and me from stage. I said, he works for a multinational company with 40,000 employees. I'm like, I don't know your CEO. What was he talking about me? And he said, he says, I just won the international sales award, because of my weight loss journey. I said, that's amazing. I said, but I'm confused. I said, wait a minute, stop a minute. I said, you won the international sales. You're in operations. I said, when did you switch to sales? He said, that's why it's crazy. I'm not in sales. They've never given it to a salesperson. To somebody who went in sales. And he said, but my journey was so attractive to people because, and this is what I want people not to miss. You can't, here's the sad part. You cannot hide your obesity. Just like you were talking about the head trainer she can't hide her obesity.
Right.
But here's what else you can't hide as one. You can't hide when it goes away.
Yeah.
You can't hide that. And when that happens, the people who are struggling in their marriage, the people who've got gambling problems, people who've got pornography addictions, the people who are struggling in their business, who've got financial, all these things that cannot be seen. Their struggles just like weight. It's the same thing. It's the same kind of deal. Yeah. When they see you releasing that weight, they get something called hope. And all of a sudden, they're attracted to you from a standpoint of just saying, how are you doing this thing that's impossible? How are you doing this thing that's impossible? And what our clients are all trained to say, I'm not going to tell you, I just want you to watch me. And they're all trained to say, watch me. And as they drop the weight down, the people around them get inspired. And then that builds the standard for the individual who is losing the weight, releasing the weight, that they maintain the weight because they've created a new standard in their life. And the people around them look at them and say, oh my God, maybe there's hope for my relationship, even though I'm not overweight. Maybe there's hope for my relationship, or maybe there's hope for my addiction over here, maybe my alcohol addiction or whatever. We've just seen some amazing things happen. And the greatest motivational opportunity, the greatest ministry opportunity that an overweight person has is to lose their weight.
Well, you kind of mentioned this at the beginning too, is that you're not working with everybody. There's a select few people amount of people that you're able to offer
Mhm.
services to. What are some of the common denominators that you see in the people that really do take this to the next level if they're listening in and they want to get the weight off? Like what kind of mindset are this should you expect them to have if it's actually going to work? Because that was a major issue in the fitness world is it was all mindset. It's not a matter of, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but for you listeners, it's not a matter of I'm going to throw you a couple $1,000 and then you as a trainer, you do the work and get the weight off for me.
Oh
It's a
yeah.
program like that. So I'll let you kind of
And
speak a little bit.
they have to understand that everything's on the line because it is.
Hmm.
They have to understand that. I don't care if they're 27, like a lady was mentioned earlier, who's down pushing 50 pounds down. She's
Right.
not been able to lose weight for years. Or whether they're 73, like the guy mentioned earlier. They have to decide that today's the day. The decision. It's kind of like we get a lot of professionals that are clients, and all of them have achieved all these things in their life. And one of the questions I'll ask, I said, so when you started, nursing school, for example, I was asking this other day of a client who's a RN. So when you started nursing school, was it optional to finish for you? Oh no, I was going to finish. I said, but every one of the weight loss programs you've done in the past has been optional.
Hmm.
I want you to see, they have to see it like they would a higher level of study or anything. And they also have to realize this too, that magic pills don't exist. It's like all these diet drugs now. God bless them if people are taking them. I wish them well, but they're
Hmm.
killing people. And then when they get off of them, they're gaining all the weight back for more because they lost all their muscle mass as well. I mean, it's horrendous.
There was a lot of
The
that.
things.
There's a lot of pushing those in the fitness world as well.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, they have the ability to do this, and they have to be willing. When people ask us, say, "How are you able to get all this weight off?" It's like Klein Orange Dave who came in February. I mean,
Hmm.
he was 420 pounds at 5'8" when he started with us.
Shoot,
420. That's a big boy.
that's a
Okay,
that's
and I didn't have to tell him. You don't have to tell people they're overweight. They already know it. And he said, "No, I'm ready." And it's so funny to see this guy. He can't stop smiling. He just hit the 200s. He
hmm.
just hit the 200s since February. And I mean, we did not tell him one thing to eat. Okay,
Hmm.
I want you to get that. So as well, we didn't tell him one exercise. Did he eat differently? Of course, did he exercise? Well, he wasn't able to begin with. Yeah, now he's exercising more. But at the end of the day, we 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 showed him the pieces of the puzzle to put together, and he did the work. And the work is not. It's the hardest muscle exercise on planet Earth. It's the one between your ears.
Hmm.
And so we look for people who are willing to do whatever it takes.
Hmm.
If they're not willing to do whatever it takes, and I tell people, if if their doctor would argue with it, stop it. And I know doctors struggle with obesity. It's usually 25% of the medical professional is obese. But so what the common denominators are, they're just done. They're tired of it. They
Yeah.
know that it's cost them in more ways, and they know that if they don't change, that it's going to impact the people around them terribly. Because it's just like me. I have a lot of insurance. I was in the insurance business for years,
Yeah.
but but there's nobody that's going to step in and be me.
Hmm.
There's nobody that's going to be. I mean, she probably find a great looking guy if I got hit by the Domino's pizza truck. Somebody a lot better. But at the end of the day, I would not be here with my kids. I would not be here. My grandkid, future grandkids. We don't have any yet. I wouldn't be here to do the things that I was brought to Earth to do. And Angie wouldn't be either. And people need to realize that this is not just about whether you had broccoli for dinner last night. I mean, broccoli's fine,
Yeah.
but it's about, are you sick and tired of living this life?
Hmm.
Sick and tired of lying to yourself? Because that's the greatest lie we tell ourselves as obese people. That's how we're able to get obese. It's
Hmm.
because we say we all. It's like you're not old enough to remember probably the cartoon Popeye. Do you remember the cartoon Popeye?
Ah, yes, vaguely, very
Okay.
vaguely.
You remember the real overweight guy that
Well, I
liked
remember the spinach,
hamburgers?
and then is that the one with the spinach, and
Yeah,
then he's like,
yeah.
okay.
But he had a morbidly obese friend by the name of Wimpy. And
Great
Wimpy's deal was Wimpy never had cash on him, and Wimpy said, "I will gladly pay." He said over and over again, "I will gladly pay you Tuesday for a hamburger today." Okay,
Hmm.
and so that's what I did for 35 years of obesity.
Wow.
I would gladly pay for my weight down the road,
Hmm.
pay for it, not financially. I'm talking about in life, in whatever. I was always thinking tomorrow. Well, guys, I can tell you, every 8 seconds somebody dies of an obesity related illness.
Mm-hmm.
Every 7 seconds. That's a lot. And so before you can say superfragilocalistic extravialodosis, I can't even say it. Before you
Yeah.
can say it right, somebody's gone. And so in people don't think it'll be them until it is them, and then it's too late. And it's like, for the Bible thumpers in the group, look up Hezekiah.
Mm-hmm.
He had he was told he was going to die. And I don't think the guy was obese. He was a king. He was told he was going to die, and he bargained with God to get 15 more years.
Mm-hmm.
This is your chance for people who are listening to this that are struggling with weight, that you might be able to make a bargain and get another 5 years, maybe another 10 years, maybe another, for men, it's 20 years, by the way, from obesity to normal weight.
Mm-hmm.
It is the average. But at the end of the day, it's about you reaching that point in your life that you were born to reach. There's somebody in your future as one. I don't know who it is. I mean, you're obviously in great shape. But if you could start going out on I-95 in Palm Beach County and running back and forth across the street, you're going to eventually get run over. Okay, that's what obese people are doing with weight every day.
Mm-hmm.
And what's sad, if you did that on I-95, you would positively get run over on I-95 in Palm Beach County. I know that.
Yeah.
but at the end of the day, if you did that, what the saddest part would be, not that just that you were gone.
Mm-hmm.
The saddest part would be that, 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, the day you were really meant to live to,
Mm-hmm.
the impact you would have had on all those people in between, all those ripples in life and time that would be gone because Aswan Cruikshank wasn't there, because he
Yeah.
was running back and forth across a busy highway.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what when people tell me, they say, what do you want from me? I said, I want you to make it to your last day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And the thing is too, though, I forgot I was interviewing you for a second, man. I was just moved. I was just moved because you were taking me in so many different directions. Growing up in a culture where social drinking is the norm. There's situations where even my mother's who actually got me into fitness, and she would kind of say a whole lot of the same things that you said. I lost my grandmother to cancer, and then my grandmother, my father's side, lost her to diabetes. And there's so many triggers that you're hitting, because I personally feel so blessed that I have a mother that would wake my ass up every morning, go run, made it a priority, because I saw the kind of direction that I could have easily slipped down into in terms of not taking care of my health. Even my
Hey,
father.
hold on, I gotta stop you there.
Yeah,
I'm gonna say one thing.
yeah, go.
Your mother did that. She could have told you 1,000 times,
Mm-hmm.
but what she did was she showed you more.
Wait,
We've
right.
raised 4 children. Your mom did the thing. More was caught than taught. So go ahead. I'm sorry, I didn't interrupt.
Chapter one, addicted to cardio. It's right there.
There you go. I love it. I love it.
Addicted to cardio.
I
And
love it.
yeah, the thing about it is, also my father, for years, he's still with us, but he had a kidney failure, and a lot of it was based on a lot of these things. So now I'm like health nut, making sure I'm staying in shape, making sure I'm staying on top of what I put into my body and all that. And I do want to make sure I'm respectful of you guys' time as well. Can you just talk a little bit about what you see next? How do you see this thing playing out? Is it that you guys are going to create maybe your own race, maybe open up your own gym, or how do you make it so people have access to you all? Because it's such a rarity, man. I've been in this, as you guys can tell, for a long, long time, and there's a lot of people making a lot of money off those numbers that you said. I mean, there's gyms opening up based on how many people are obese, and then how much I can sell, and then, okay, we're going to just get this number, get this contract, and then go off the money, the gym goes out of business. It is absolutely, it's politics. It's sickening if you really were to know the numbers. So how do people get more access to you, and what's your plan for the kind of the future of this thing?
The easy way to access us. I mean, right now, we actually have a link for your audience. They can go to this is something, they go to transformmyfuture.com /move swiftly. You might recognize that name. Transformmyfuture.com /move swiftly, and they can watch. It's a totally free training that we do, and we literally had somebody last year on Mother's Day send us an email from ICU. They said it saved their life from a cardiac event they had. They had a heart attack, and
So
they
it's like
said
a
they watched.
training demo of what you guys
It's
are.
it's a training. We walk through a 5-step strategy Angie and I use to lose 192 pounds together in 260 days.
Wow.
But they can also access this, and any of your listeners, we will make time for them. They go to transformmyfuture.com/apply, and they can book a call with our team. I mean, that's one thing. And guys, it's not a place. It's not about buying this or buying that. It's about really finding out how bad the problem is with weight, how committed they are to solve it, if we can help. Because really our dream. I mean, truly. I mean, we work with a lot of clients.
Mhm.
We build our process to where they can live in Singapore, for example. We have clients. We have clients in Europe, and we have clients in the United States and Canada, and all. They can live anywhere. But if they're looking for, this is the people that don't call us. If this is the case, don't book a call.
Yes, that's important too.
If you're looking for the magic pill,
Mhm.
okay, don't reach out, because here's the deal. It's work to do what we train on, and how we work with people. But if they're really sick and tired of this obesity thing, this
Mhm.
weight problem, it's like when a commercial airline pilot that we worked with about 3 years ago, he dropped 90 pounds with us. He was so funny. Now, when I was interviewing him for just a success interview, he changed his life. It was so funny. He said, "So what made you, you know, dive in with us?" And he said, "You called me obese." And I said, "No, I didn't. I did not. I would never say that to you."
Right,
I said, "It's such a nice, it's my board, it's
yeah,
such a nice man." And
right.
and I said, he said, "Yes, you did." He said, "What you did, because we'll call it like it is. I mean, and it's not to hurt people, but here's what I was referring to when on our original call, I said, does anybody else in your family struggle with obesity, or are they a normal weight?" He said, "You said that to me." I said, "Yeah, I did say that to you." And he
Yeah.
said, "You indirectly called me obese." I said, "I
Direct,
did."
right,
He
right,
said,
right.
and he said to me, he said, "But Alan," he said, "that probably saved my life,
Mhm.
because my doctor wouldn't call me obese because he was worried about hurting my feelings. Nobody at my work would call me obese because
Ah,
60% of them
there
are
you
obese."
go.
He's
Yeah.
he's a he's a captain of a commercial airliner. I mean, he's a
Yeah.
big shot, and he said nobody would do it. He said, "But you would," and he got amazing results. But what I would say to people is, come in, tell your friends about it if they've heard us, because we're looking for a handful of people that are
Mhm.
just done. Well, that's what our passion is, because at the end of the day, there this obesity epidemic, the deck stacked against people. You know this as one.
Mhm.
The whole food pyramid was a scam. The drugs that are being created now are money makers. They're going to kill people. They're killing people right now. The
Exactly.
weight loss surgery, we get people who've had weight loss surgery all the time. We get them because it doesn't work. It doesn't work long term. And it's just like one of my closest friends said to me when I reached my ideal weight range. He said, "Alan, buddy, now this guy had never been overweight a day in his life,
Mhm.
and massively successful after he stopped drinking. He was an alcoholic. He still calls himself an alcoholic, but he hadn't had a drink since 1993. And he called me when I reached my ideal weight range. He said, "Buddy, I am so proud of you. I knew you could do it." He said, "But you got it way tougher than me."
Mhm.
I said, "What do you mean? You're drunk?" And he said, "Yeah, but I hadn't had a drink since 93, and I never have to have one." He
Mm.
said, "But you got to eat." And
Yeah.
he's right. And
That
I
is
mean,
true.
he
That
was,
is
I can
very
tell you, exactly where I was on Amelia Island. I was in exactly where I almost ran into a ditch when he said it, because it freaked me out,
Yeah,
because
I don't have to
it's,
drink.
you
Yeah.
can't escape. You can't escape it. So, but our dream is, I mean, honestly, it's a big one. It's because here's what we see happening. Okay, 92,555 people a day were becoming obese that weren't obese yesterday. Okay, that's after you subtract all the people that died during the day before.
Every
Okay,
7 to 9 seconds,
every
keep in mind
yeah,
someone's dying.
every 7 seconds somebody's
The
dying from
numbers are
obesity.
scary, and I
But
hope you listeners are paying attention, because these numbers aren't numbers that they're just pulling out of their heads. These are like
they're real.
these are real studies that they've done,
But
right?
if you but what we really want to see change, we want to see enough people influence other people that we can change. I believe in our generation, in our lifetime, and we're senior citizens now. Even though I'm in better shape than I was with 18, I'm 62, like I said. But
Exactly.
but I believe in my lifetime, in Angie's lifetime, we can see obesity epidemic, the tide turned.
Hmm.
Okay, and it starts with one bite of food. It starts with one step. It starts with that, but it starts with it. But even before that, it starts with a decision. And that's what I tell people all the time. The reason we call our process rethink dieting is because it is a decision. It's not a diet.
Mm-hmm.
And when they make it, magic happens. It's like Tracy out of Memphis. I mean, she's a lady that started with us at 267 just a few months ago.
Mm-hmm.
And now we never told her what to eat. She's eating all the time, doing stuff, going to the gym, doing things she hadn't done. She's just about to hit the 200s.
So it's
She just
367.
it's 367, 367, and just about. And she didn't think it was possible. She didn't think it was. She said, "I can't." Her own family's in the fitness business. She's got a family member that's a fitness trainer and all, but she didn't think it was possible. And I said, Tracy, it's always been possible.
Yeah. Well,
And
if you are
so,
a client, if you're a client listening in, I hope you are truly appreciative of these two, because throughout this entire hour they have mentioned you guys multiple times, and a lot of times too, I know this from the trainer's perspective, you guys as clients don't realize how much we learn from you guys. I used to tell you guys that all the time. It works both ways. Trainers learn from clients, clients learn from trainers. It works both ways. So, all that being said, the way I close out all the shows, and this is actually for both of you guys. I want you guys to use your imagination a little bit. Pretend you have the weight currently on. Pretend you're back in those days. I believe it was what you said, like 5 years ago.
7 years ago.
7 years ago.
Mhm.
Yeah, so 7 years ago, the weight's on. You're right before you go to that scale. Try to go back to that moment. Pretend that version of Alan and Angie has come into the Zoom room. Give them some words of give him and her some words of encouragement, and we'll officially close.
You go for it, ladies first.
Oh my gosh, I can't believe the scale says 188. I've got to do something about it. I can. I'm strong. I have strong will. I can do it. And you can too, because that's what it took. It took making decisions. And when we do talk to people, and we could take more people, it's the people aren't ready when we interview them. So that's why well, Alan was referring to. But if you're ready, you can do it. I promise you. We're happy to talk to you. If you want to, learn more about us, that's fine, but you can do it. You can do it. If we can, because years and years of up and down, and it's worth it.
What I would say to that guy that was rolling out of bed on March 2nd, I would say, this whole diet thing, man, it's been stacked against you. It's been stacked against you. The 75 diets you've been on that didn't work, they all work. They all work for somebody. All of these things and I want you to know that you're to stop looking for the shortcuts, to stop looking for the shortcuts and do what you already know how to do right now, and
Mhm.
cut off all possibility of ever going back. Cut off all possibility, and you will be there in a flicker of the eye compared to how long it's taken you to get here. And to not get discouraged when the scale doesn't go down every day. Not get discouraged when the pizza truck still passes by and you want to go chase after it. Not yet, but maybe if you chased after the pizza truck, you wouldn't be that side. But at any rate, but not get discouraged, and not to make excuses for anything, but also not to beat yourself up. Give yourself some grace and realize you're here for a reason. This weight, it could be your greatest blessing you've ever had.
Mhm.
It's a blessing to be gotten rid of.
Mhm.
It's a blessing, but give yourself some grace and understand that fast is fun and slow is painful. And while the weight may seem like it's coming off slowly compared to the pace that you gained it overall, it's going to come off at blazing speeds if you just do the work.
Mhm.
Because a pound a week translates to 52 pounds a year, and the average person gains it at about 6 pounds a year.
Mhm.
So if you look at 35 years and divide that by 129 extra pounds, whatever that works out to be, it's about 4 pounds a year is all I averaged.
Mhm.
And I averaged dropping 3.497 pounds a day on my journey and I ate all the time. And I didn't exercise crazy. I just did sensible things. But the point being, I would say to that guy is give yourself the grace to do what you've done in your business, with your family, with all these other areas you've been successful in,
Mhm.
and realize that it's going to exponentially change everything for everybody. And it's going to change your kids. It's going to change your family. It's going to change their whole life and the people that are around you more than you could possibly know.
I mean, well, you guys can't see it, but I'm sitting here getting goosebumps and shaking because I've been in that room and in so many ways, and I know that something as simple as getting yourself on the right diet, on the right health plan, can transition into so many other aspects of your life. And for you regular listeners, you guys know the reason. If you're new to the show, you'll know now. But the reason I close out the show with that question is because I want them talking directly to you. All right. If you're in that situation, if you're in that place, understand that there is support, there is help, there's things you can be doing. Do not let another day go by. Don't let another moment go by where you don't do something about it. So, all that being said, fellow teammates, continue to move swiftly. We will talk more soon.